Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder by Katniss Everdeen in the Hunger Games trilogy by Taylor Parsons. Background. Katniss Everdeen's story is set in a dystopian society where the highest class, known as the Capital, owns 12 districts and exploits them for their people and resources. Katniss is a member of District 12, the poorest of all the districts. Every year, the Capital holds a Hunger Games competition where one boy and one girl from each of these districts fight to the death with only one survivor. Katniss was chosen for these games and ultimately survived with her love interest. However, her time in the games and her home district being bombed due to her rebellion led to her developing post-traumatic stress disorder. Post-traumatic stress disorder is defined by a person being exposed to some sort of stressful or traumatic event where the threat of death or violence is involved. This usually causes an individual to have flashbacks to the event later in life and reacts as if they are still in that environment. Dystopian therapy. I would argue that in this universe, Katniss would have a hard time getting a diagnosis from a real therapist. All the therapists would likely be from the Capital and try to make Katniss believe that she is completely happy being under their higher society. However, if she was able to meet with a real therapist after she escaped that really cared about her well-being, they would agree with this diagnosis and argue that it makes sense. Cultural diagnosis. Difference in cultures. All cultures and people from diverse backgrounds can experience these symptoms and be diagnosed with PTSD, according to the DSM-5. However, the rate of diagnosis is significantly different across countries. This can be most clearly seen through a diagnosis rate of 0.2% in China compared to 3.5% in the United States. Why the difference? I do not think that this disorder is diagnosed in all cultures, even though it is argued that it exists everywhere. I think that the reason for this would be the lack of professionals who are able to diagnose these issues in some countries. However, in others, it may be due to stigma associated with having a diagnosed mental disorder and needing help. Stigma within our culture. People with PTSD may be seen as oversensitive, dangerous, weak, or antisocial. Katniss's symptoms. Flashbacks. Flashbacks are the most common symptom of PTSD, and they are defined as intrusive and distressing memories of the event. This happens to Katniss often in the movie. However, one of the instances that stands out the most is when Katniss is in the woods hunting after winning her first games and shoots a turkey she imagines as the first boy she killed in the games. Proneness to outbursts. One of the symptoms of PTSD is the proneness to outbursts. This means that people with PTSD have trouble regulating their emotions when they are in stressful or triggering situations. This is seen when Katniss yells at her family cat Buttercup and begins to have an emotional outburst after her sister died. Symptoms not seen. While Katniss has a majority, if not all, the symptoms of PTSD, the symptom that can be seen the least is decreased interest in activities. We are not able to see the symptom in her character because most of her free time is spent doing necessary tasks. Therefore, there is no real hobby for her before that we could see a shift in interest in. Severity and diagnosis. According to the Journal of Nervous and Mental Disease, the severity of the PTSD directly correlates with the amount of traumatic experience the person has witnessed. This explains why Katniss's PTSD is so extreme, and she was a fighter and saw tragedies every day. However, they also found that people who experience sexual assault are more likely to have severe PTSD than people who served in the military, likely because those in the military know what they were signing up for. This may explain why the unexpected tragedies seem to hurt Katniss's mental state the most. Treatments for Katniss. Cognitive behavioral therapy. This type of therapy is the most effective for PTSD because it works well for people with serious psychological issues and it allows them to change their way of thinking. Eye movement desensitization. This works by moving your eyes a specific way and thinking of a traumatic event. With 95% confidence, this process decreases symptoms of PTSD anywhere from 88% to 44%. SSRI medicine. These are selective serotonin reuptakeable inhibitors that work by raising the levels of serotonin that regulate mood. Cognitive therapy benefits. It is highly accepted throughout the medical community as being helpful. It is highly effective in reducing PTSD and other anxiety and depression symptoms. In a study, patients reported being 2 times happier than they expected. Treatment ethical concerns. For medicine has many different side effects, and if you give a person medicine, they may have a hard time getting off of it. For therapy, it may be hard for the person to relive their traumatic experiences and share them with someone. And if you only do therapy, it may not be as effective as medicine. Katniss did not have any access to these sources due to her poverty and lack of support. Also, during the wartime, the Capital cut off access to necessary goods like medicine. Therapy. Katniss did not have access to therapy as she could not afford this either. This would have also been looked down upon in her society as they are made to believe that they should be grateful for the Capital. Broader perspective. The portrayals of PTSD in this film is very accurate to the experiences of many people who have gone through such intense trauma. One of the problems that I see with it, though, is that it seems that she heals very quickly at the end of the movie. I think that this film's representation of PTSD has given millions of people a glimpse into the lives of people with this condition. This can give people a deeper understanding as to what people living with PTSD go through on a daily basis.